Virgo, here is your reading for the month of October 2024. And I am a fellow Virgo Sun, so my Virgo babies, hello, welcome. Let's get into this reading for you. Full transparency, I am still in my pajamas doing this, but the inspiration struck, and so here we are. And I couldn't be happier that I actually sat down and did this reading because it's a good one. This message feels very, very spot on for me personally. Again, with strong Virgo energy, and I hope that it resonates with you as well. Super curious to hear what you take from this, how this lands with you. And this is really looking at kind of as we move into October, the energy that is coming through, kind of the big themes for the month of October for you. And I will say that Virgo, I have tried to do a reading several times for us for the month of October, and it just hasn't been, like, it just hasn't felt right. And this one, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the message. So I'm excited about this. Okay. So Virgo, what I did is I pulled two different really short and to the point spreads. So I did a stop, start, continue, and then I did a past, present, future. And again, especially the stop, start, continue is very much to the point. It is a very cut and dry reading, which is why I like it. I feel like, it gives very direct information, which is what we want. So it's again, very much this idea of stop doing this, start doing this, continue doing this. It's very to the point. And then the same thing with the past, present, future. I think you can, guess how that one works. All right, so let's start with the stop, start, continue. I love this message so much. I feel I needed to hear this today. So I'm hoping that you feel the same. Okay, so for the stop position, we have the Knight of Air. Knight of Air, Knight of Swords, depending on if you're using a more traditional, like a Rider-Waite deck, it would be the Knight of Swords. In this deck, it's the Knight of Air. And I'm not going to lie, when I first pulled this for the stop, this was the first card that I pulled, and I pulled it for the stop position, and I was a little confused. I wasn't quite sure where we were going with this, right? But then I pulled the start card, and the start card is the Queen of Earth. And then I was like, okay, I get it. I get what's trying to be laid out here for us. And again, this message feels very specific, especially to us Virgos that like to do everything, do it well, put way too much on our plates typically. This messaging that I'm seeing come through is stop with the Knight of Air, is stop having a frantic approach and taking an approach that's more about kind of instant gratification, or even beyond that, it feels more like a knee-jerk response, a kind of frantic response, a response that comes from anxiety. So, and what I mean by a response is like taking action, right? Doing something out of this place of, I need a quick result. I need a quick turnaround here. Shoot, this hasn't worked out for me. And so I need to slap a bunch of, Band-Aids on this and try to fix this. And I think this, I know this is definitely a theme throughout my life, because I think that we do kind of take so much on and want to perfect pretty much everything that we do, that's just not possible, right? It's not possible to do everything perfectly, right? It's just not. And to do everything and to do it well. This is really about managing what we are putting on our plate. And again, this Knight of Air, and it's interesting because the words on here are intellectual, determined, and motivated. Motivated really stands out to me. This can be a good thing, but this, again, also has a shadow side to it where the motivation, right, and kind of this again, this like, I will jump to and I will get right into anything at any point. Sometimes our over motivation becomes very ungrounded, right? It's a very, very ungrounded approach where you're not thinking about your plan and how to make it sustainable. And so whatever you're doing, whatever solution you're coming up with becomes very unsustainable, because it's, again, kind of this knee-jerk reaction, this reactive reaction. I know that's redundant, obviously, but it's more of a reactive, like, oh shoot, this isn't working, let me try to fix this. Or, oh shoot, I need more money, I got to figure this out. Oh shoot, I'm late on this, I got to figure this out. Oh shoot, I procrastinated on this, right? And the way that you kind of really shift the tides for you so that you aren't having a lot of these, oh shoot, I got to fix this moment, is by taking a more overall grounded approach, which is where we have the start card in the Queen of Earth. And I love the Queen of Earth coming through because the Queen of Earth is very much a Virgo card, right? Virgo is an earth sign. I think at our core, we have this ability to really think about things long term, to plan, to be really methodical and mindful about the actions that we're taking. And really, again, we're not haphazard, right? We're thinking about A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. We're thinking about every single step. However, I think, again, the shadow side of that and the double-edged sword there is that sometimes you can think about too much. You can think about every single little working piece, and even the pieces that might not even be yours to think about. So you're thinking about all of your pieces, but then you're thinking about your family members, and you're thinking about your partners, and you're thinking about all these other things, right? Which is a distraction. And so, and I just felt like I needed to put that in there, by the way. That just kind of came to me. So I don't know, maybe that lands for you, but these two cards very much are saying to me, it is time to take a slower, more grounded, more methodical approach, even if it doesn't give you that instant like result or dopamine hit that you're going to get from a quick result, a quick win, because quick win after quick win will just burn you out. So quick reactionary solutions eventually will tire you out. It's like if you just kept striking a match and eventually you're not going to have any matches left, right? What is the more sustainable solution? And that is that Queen of Earth. And how can you start, especially in the month of October, right? How can you start creating a routine for yourself and a plan for yourself? And how can you start addressing these things that you want to address in your life, but in a more, for the words on this card, practical way? And what is practical, right? Well, practical is it practical to always kind of just have to have these really haphazard solutions and throw things together super last minute and, burning the candle at both ends, staying up super late or getting up super early and, frantically trying to do everything? Is that really sustainable and practical? No, it's not practical at all, because it's not sustainable. And so there's a real call here to, I think, the more that you can take a grounded approach in all things, and the more that you can have solutions that are slow but sustainable, the less that you're going to feel the need to have knee-jerk reactions, the less that you're going to have to be reactive. It's that proactive over reactive. We've heard it so many times. There's a reason for that, right? So I think you're feeling this too, Virgo. I think like at this, you're realizing, right? And actually I pulled a card off to the side here just for a little bit more additional information. And we got the 5 of Water. Just looking at this imagery, right? It's self beat up. It's feeling bad about your choices. Some of the words on here, regret and disappointment. I think, however, though, this is not like a permanent state. This is just kind of overviewing that you're realizing this way that I used to do things where, yeah, I always figured it out, because Virgo, I know you always figure it out. but do you like figuring it out that way? And does it really, like, you get it done, everything's okay at the end of the day, but are you actually getting anywhere? Are you actually making any progress? Because you kind of might be refusing to take a little bit more of a, I'll just say it, like more boring, kind of slower, not sexy approach, right? You're kind of just taking a more day by day approach. But how is that actually really benefiting? How can that benefit you in the way of not having to have as many emergency situations? Okay, I hope this is making sense. I feel like I just spent about 10 minutes talking about 2 cards, so I hope that makes sense. Let's look at the continue card really quickly. So the continue card, we have the 4 of water. And this card gets a bad rap, but in this case, I think this is a very good thing, because 4 of water really talks about kind of being in a bit of an enclosed emotional state, being a little bit absorbed in your own emotions. And again, I think this card sometimes has a negative connotation. But in this case, I think look at your reaction to certain situations, Virgo, and it's information. Your reaction to things, how certain situations, how being in these situations where you do need to kind of like haphazardly figure things out, or, you know, really like throw things together and it doesn't feel good, that is actually information. That is information on, is this working for me? Is it not working for me? And how do I want to do it differently? I say this a lot, like with intuitive eating. If you've ever heard of intuitive eating or how you feel about it, I'm not going to go into explaining it right now, but my big thing is, you know, I will eat something that really doesn't work for my body, and then I'm reminded shortly after, right? I don't feel well. And so instead of beating myself up about eating it, oh, that wasn't good for me, I shouldn't have done that. No, it's like maybe I needed a few more times of that to really allow my brain to imprint, this doesn't work for you. And I think that's what's happening here, but more about your decision making and your planning. You kind of keep having these same scenarios, and it's actually, I think, a good thing to dig in a little bit to the emotional reaction that you're having to it. The stress, the disappointment, the regret. You're not going to live there, but how do you use that as information to go, okay, this isn't working. So how do I change this system? How do I do this differently so that I don't continue to feel this way? All right, let's look really quickly at the past, present, future. Again, I think this is a very cut and dry and to the point reading, which I love. I love for us. So we have the past card. It is along the exact same lines of what we were talking about. We have the 7 of air, 7 of swords. This goes back to kind of those actions that you've taken, those decisions that you've made, and then it always feels like you could always figure it out, but you kind of had to cut corners. You had to do things in a way that weren't 100% savory, right? And not that you were doing anything. I mean, maybe you were. Maybe you were doing things that you really weren't proud of or weren't even legal, right? I don't know. But it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Like you may have just been really kind of cutting corners, or not being able to show up fully the way that you want to, not being able to really just like be the kind of person that you want to be. Like you were always able to figure it out, but it's like something always had to be sacrificed, or you weren't able to, again, fully be the person that you wanted to be. And I think, again, it's because when you're constantly just, I'll figure it out later, I'll figure it out later, which again, it's such this juxtaposition with Virgo, because again, I think we are thinking about so much, we are planning for so much, but sometimes we need to actually figure out, instead of thinking so much into the future, it's like, how does this become part of my day-to-day life so that this can become my future? So instead of planning so much ahead all the time, It's more about how do I figure out what my day-to-day routine looks like so that that future comes up. I know that's where I get trapped. I dream about what I want in the future, but I don't actually change my daily living to get me there. I'm just like, well, one day I'll get there, right? If I think about it hard enough, one day I'll get there. And it's like, no, your day-to-day living has to change in order to get you to that place. So that's what we're talking about here. And your present card is Two of Fire reversed. It's literally saying what I just said. You have to change your mechanism of planning. You have to change your way of doing life, right? I think a lot of times you have no problem with the big vision. This is about seeing the big vision. It says planning, partnering. You have no issue with, you have all the motivation in the world, all the enthusiasm, all the excitement, but it's the groundedness, the Queen of Earth energy and the plan that needs to happen in the day-to-day, kind of the mundane, the slower, less sexy approach, right? That actually gets you to that thing. And that's the change. And I feel like we're in this eclipse season, Virgo. A lot of us are having big realizations and changing pretty big things about how we do life. And maybe this is ours, right? Is instead of this, again, we have all the motivation and enthusiasm and we'll do whatever it takes, but there's a certain amount of it where you have to plan in the present. You can't always be taking a last minute approach. Sometimes there's just simply not enough time. Things sometimes need a little bit more planning, right? Then I'll deal with that in a few months. I know that's been my way of living for a long time. I'll deal with that later. But then later comes and I haven't done the proper preparation, because some things take time, months, years of preparation. And when you can really just own that, then you can actually make those things happen in the future. And by the way, I'm talking to myself right now too. This is like the TED Talk that I also need. So don't feel bad about that, okay? Like I'm in the same boat. 100%. All right, future. I love this. Future is the Dreamer reversed, also known as the Fool, depending on what deck you're using. To me, what this is saying is it's going to be a new beginning for you. However, it's not going to feel completely new. I think that you are going to, I think what it's saying is this isn't your first rodeo. You have good planning skills. You have great motivation. You have great enthusiasm. You're extremely dedicated. You're resourceful, all of those things. So when you go into this new approach, it's not like you're trying to find motivation within you, because that is one thing that's very natural to you. What's different is about being committed to, again, the more grounded approach instead of kind of the, I'll figure it out, the haphazard, I'll save it for later, that kind of approach that it's not working out. And that's okay. Like, let's just own it. It's not working out. So again, I think and in the month of October, I would really encourage you to be like, okay, so all these big visions and dreams that I have for my future, how do I reverse engineer and what do I need to be doing in my day-to-day to actually make these things happen, and then go from there. But again, the motivation, the enthusiasm, the drive, the willingness, you have all of that, Virgo. That is not going to be a new feeling for you. What is going to be new is getting comfy with, all right, this is going to take time. I got to be patient. I got to just keep showing up day after day and doing this. All right, Virgo, so much love to you. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below what resonated. Super curious what you're taking away. Like, subscribe, all the things. I will be back here with weekly videos for you. And again, have a beautiful October. I'll see you next month. Bye.